arrived on the island of Itsukushima, which is better known by its nickname, Miyajima, which means Island of Shrines. An island with great historical importance in Japan, religious importance for the shrines and temples here. There's also a place where very few people live, about 2,000, scattered in 5 villages mostly, including the one that I entered from the ferry terminal, totally encapsulated within a national park. And to let you know how serene it is, there are cars here, but there are no traffic lights. This island is considered sacred within Shintoism, and one of the reasons is the Itsukushima Shrine, with its notable gates or torii along the beachfront, which at moments such as these, when it's high tide, appears to float over the water. The wooden shrine itself has existed here since the 1100s, having been rebuilt a number of times, always in the original style. Whenever you're in Japan, you can differentiate between the two by remembering that Shintoism has shrines, Buddhism has temples. If you aren't into shrines and temples, there's another excellent reason to come here. This is a beautiful place. Just a 10-minute ferry ride from the mainland into the Seto Inland Sea after taking a train, as I did, which takes about 30 minutes to get to the ferry terminal. When the weather's clear, and unfortunately that does not look like it will be the case today, it is an especially wonderful place to disappear into nature, offering spectacular ocean, mountain, and coastline views. There's also Mount Misen with terrific views from the top, which, if the weather will hold, I hope to show you. A cable car goes most of the way up the mountain, followed by a 1-kilometer trail to the summit. Well, I'm in line for the ropeway, the aerial tramway. Another spectacular cable car ride. Somewhat, even though it's not sunny, it could be a lot prettier in sunshine. But it's still gorgeous up here, as maybe you can tell. And I'm on the trail that dips down before it goes back up to the summit, which I doubt that I will walk completely. But I wanted to walk a ways on this trail just to illustrate how peaceful it is. When you get up here, especially away from the cable car station, you hear very little except exotic birds. One of the things I expected to see up here were the Sika deers, S-I-K-A, a species that used to be fairly common all over East Asia, but has largely been extirpated rather than become extinct. It's managed to survive well in Japan because of religious reasons. The deer is considered sacred among both Shinto and Buddhists in Japan. It's thought of as being a quote-unquote messenger of God. And for that reason, it's protected. And you may have seen these down in the village. Some of them don't look very well, to be honest with you. They're slender, skinny. They seem to mope around. They don't seem to be particularly healthy from my observation, and yet there is a reason for that. About 10 or 15 years ago, it was decided that they would not be eradicated, euthanized, but I'm going to put it more coarsely than perhaps some would agree, but the decision was to more or less starve the deer. They have grown on this island to be above the capacity of sustainability. There are more than 500 of them, I'm told, today. There were more earlier, but it was decided just not to feed them. In fact, when you get off the ferry in the village, one of the first things you hear is a repeated public address announcement telling you, among other things, encouraging you not to feed the deer. They don't come out and say that, but they admonish you not to go near them. And that is sort of code for please don't feed the deer. Because the purpose behind the culling by starvation was that they had become too numerous, especially in the villages, and their droppings had become a nuisance for both merchants and tourists. Hence, what you see around the village, at least, are a lot of deer that look like they're hungry. I think I mentioned that Mount Misen is about 1,500 feet elevation, 535 meters. And many of the visitors who come here do so for the view after they leave the cable car. But there are many Japanese, especially devout Shintoists and Buddhists, who come here as a pilgrimage because the trail that I'm walking, while modern and paved, was really established hundreds of years ago by a particular Buddhist monk, calligrapher, and poet who on a pilgrimage here on his way from China established a couple of shrines near the summit, not far off this trail. And those shrines are considered sacred and are much visited. It's becoming more socked in here, but it's still a pleasure to be here on this trail high on Misen Mountain, because the air is fresh and clean and the views of the sea are spectacular.